You know him, you love him. Please welcome back to the show, Garland Nixon.
And I think the texts are real. I think they're real. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying I think based on what I see that they're real, but I could be. All of this is speculation. Something could change, but it makes sense to me that they be real. That's my position.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah,
did
I
say
mean,
all of this.
But I
is
don't know
speculation.
100% of anything. It's all speculation. At this point, it looks to me like the texts are real. Like that if they weren't, that they'd have like flew out immediately. No. Aha, we got her. Because they could have, if they weren't real, right? You would have totally discredited Candace Owens. If you could show that those texts aren't real, you could totally discredit her. There would be no better opportunity to discredit Candace Owens. In fact, I'll put it to you like this. If I wanted to discredit Candace Owens deviously and diabolically, here's what I would do. I would leak fake texts to her and say they're real. And then when she relays them, I'd come out and prove that they were false. That would be a perfect operation to completely discredit her. But if they were false, if they were real, I'd be screwed. So if they had leaked fake text to her and then she discredited them and then she released them and they came back and said, they're fake, and she got them from the inside, I'd say, that was the perfect operation to screw her over. But she's there, right, waiting for a punch. You discredit these texts and you punched her right between the eyes. And they come out and say, yeah, you got us. I don't think they would do that. I think they would do the opposite. But I don't know. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah. I think the fact that she ran an Oracle commercial right after that is the reason why you might want to discredit her a little bit. But that's just all kidding aside. I think that we still have to, and I got beat up from Steve this morning. We were going back and forth. We got really excited on the morning show. But, I think what we have to talk about, because here's my problem with the issue, right? I'm not saying that Israel had nothing to do with it, that Israel couldn't pulled the trigger on this. I look at this and who stands to gain the most, right? And I thought the social engineers of the West, of the United States, are the people who had to gain the most on this, because almost immediately after Charlie Kirk was massacred or murdered or killed or shot, from whatever angle, from whatever point, you saw all the mainstream media come out and talk about this is a war within. And then Donald Trump just repeated that recently right now over here. This is a war within. This is an ideological war. This was more, to me, about divide and conquer within the United States. And now we see the actions following up. Donald Trump using those words, war within, and encouraging the United States military, right, to get involved and even use these blue states, these big blue states, as a training ground. To me, this is the worst thing that Donald Trump could have said. This is awful here. Anytime you're talking about the military being used against its own citizens, and I've seen more moves towards that being played out than actual Israel being as scared of where and when Charlie Kirk was going. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying, once again, that Israel couldn't have nothing to do with it. I'm just not convinced it's not an isolated attack, that it is an isolated attack. Who knows? I think that's the question we have to ask. How tied are these countries now, these globalists, these entities, these bankers? How close are they tied together? I said to Steve this morning, if the United States bombs Somalia, is it at the behest of Israel? Did they have to get permission from Israel? Or are they acting independently here? Who's acting independently on what? So there's a lot more that has to come out before we have any clear answers. And I don't want to downplay what the West could have done and how they could have used this and their role that they could have had in this. We've seen evidence of motive showing motives. We haven't seen any real evidence right now, and a lot of that evidence is going to be kept from us because they're going to distort it, especially the FBI.
Well, a couple of things. I'll say this. I think that could it have been, quote, Israel, whatever that means? That's possible. Could it have been a CIA/Mossad operation? That's possible. Could it have been somebody that said, hey, I gave this guy X amount of millions of dollars and damn it, he won't do what I say. He's got to die. It could have been, Zionist billionaires that will fund him. They play that game and they're like the mafia, buddy. They give you that money. You better do what they say. And otherwise they're going to make examples. So there's various parties to me that it could have been. The thing that I think is, there's something to me that points towards government or intelligence involvement, and that is there seems to be an appearance that the FBI is somehow involved in some kind of cover-up. The inconsistencies in their story and the inconsistencies that any professional would look at and say that doesn't make any sense. So my thought is, if in fact, as it appears, and it could be wrong, if the FBI is involved in a cover-up, if the FBI is involved in something, then that points to clearly the FBI is involved, some kind of intelligence, some kind of government-related thing. If the FBI is covering it up, or the intelligence agencies, FBI is covering it up, then there was intelligence involved and there was government involved. It wasn't some whatchamacallit. But there appears to be an FBI cover-up of some type. Yeah. And there's weird things going on here. We don't have any final answers.
Yeah.
But here's what I'd say. Just like I say about 9/11, I don't know the bottom line. But here's what I tell you. The official story don't make a damn bit of sense. That's where we are. The official story does not make a damn bit of sense. I mean, anybody who thinks the official story that like somebody could get shot with a 30-06 and it's like getting shot with a Crossman 760 BB gun. Well, what happened to the pellet? It was just below his skin. It's not. I would. You know what I mean? You can't even try to make that argument.
But Garland, we heard from the coroner said that Charlie Kirk was Superman, and that's why the bullet didn't go through him. And that's the official report. So I'm good with that. It's Magic Bullet 2.0 is what we got here. And this is why we have to look at behavior. We have to look at how the FBI behaves. We've been covering the Epstein files this whole time. It's the same behavior, the same sweating. Kash Patel looking like deer in headlights. He can't get his words straight. Everything is just all jumbled and all over the place. Pam Bondi's all over the place about whether the files exist, whether they don't. We're moving on. Trump does the same thing. We're moving on. Why do we care about that Epstein guy anyway? He was a horrible guy. Can't we move on? So he's doing the same language, the same behavior, the same. Wait a minute. This isn't how an investigation goes. So I'm with you, Garland. This certainly looks like not just an FBI cover-up, but it looks like the consistent behavior of the FBI when we go through each and every one of these incidents that we live through, one after the next after the next. At some point, we got to be ahead of this. We can't wait a few years before we look back and go, you think that thing that happened 20 years ago, that doesn't look right? No, we know now that it doesn't look right, like immediately. That's my take.
Well, let me just say that, can I say something really quick?
Sure.
Because out of the list of people who could have done it, Garland, you didn't say it could be Tyler Robinson.
Sure,
you didn't say
absolutely could be.
Did you say that? Did I miss that?
No, no. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know. My point is,
he's a divisive guy, by the way.
The official story doesn't make sense. That's what I'm saying. The official story doesn't make sense. I mean, bullets and magic spines and miracles and things like that. And here's the issue too. From a guy who worked with the FBI. One of the things you have to believe in a lot of these stories is the FBI is stupid or incompetent, right? They're just stupid and they're incompetent. They don't know what they're doing. But I work with them. And they're some of the most well-educated people I've ever worked. I work with these guys. Most of them have postgraduate degrees, master's degrees, PhDs. A lot of them are attorneys. These people are very competent. The technological knowledge, the forensic abilities that they have are, as good as it can get. So my point being, you expected me to believe there was a miracle bullet, and you expect me to believe that people who are really, really good, far better than me, I think. A lot of them. I mean, in that their training and their background, their you name it. You expect me to believe that they're somehow confused and they believe this cockamamie story? They know better. They're smart people. Anytime someone says to you, the FBI is incompetent, they're being had. They are not incompetent. They are exceptionally incompetent. Yeah. And I know because I worked with them.
Yeah, that's a great point, because the behavior we're talking about, not just with the Tyler Robinson texts and all the weird stuff that doesn't seem like it seems sloppy on the outside, but when you look at it, you're like, no, this isn't sloppy. This has to be by design. Nobody can tell me that someone is that bad at their job that they're going to contradict themselves so easily, so quickly, with no time in between. Again, they did the same with the Epstein files. We're literally listening to them tell us, case closed, the guy killed himself, it's over. Oh, those tapes? Yeah, there's not really any tapes. So you're right, Garland. That's not sloppiness. That is probably a top-down order. You keep your mouth shut, or you got to move over here. You're done with this. Now you got to do that. It sounds to me like they're taking orders from someone above them. That's what it looks like to me.
It could be just another way of them playing ball to justify their budget, right? Like we have to stop the enemy within, right? This is once again that we didn't do our job we didn't get enough spying power to go out there and stop it before it happened. I mean, Donald Trump has always been pushing pre-crime stuff. You take the guns first. You know, that's a Second Amendment nut job. I don't think so. I mean, he's once again always leaned into the security state. So for me, you know, it seems like another way of the FBI just justifying their budgets and the money they get. You know, we need more money to stop the enemy within.
I don't think the FBI ever has to worry about justifying their budget. Man, they get money for nothing. They get unbelievable amounts.
Yeah.
If the FBI said we want to build a new building and it's going to cost $2.5 billion, Congress should give them 5.5. Congress gave what? You had the Capitol Police Department, which had like a couple $1 million or something, that was their yearly budget. Congress gave them like $2 or $3 billion for the Capitol Police Department, a little old police department that ain't got many people, right? Billions they gave them. So my point being, if the FBI called them down to Congress tomorrow, said double our budget, their budget would be doubled. The last thing the FBI ever has to do is worry about money, getting more money, or asking for more money. In my opinion, the FBI is two things. It is an intelligence operation masquerading as a law enforcement. As soon as after I worked with them for a year, I said, this is an intelligence agency. This is certainly not a law enforcement agency, as they argue. And they are the Gestapo. They are the secret police. You know how totalitarian governments always have this, this secret police that grabs people and does all kinds of devious and evil things? That's what the FBI is here. That's what they've always been, in my opinion. They're the secret police to, God forbid, some untimely demise comes upon Seth Rich. They're the guy who covers it up and goes out and gets the laptop and hides it and says the court will never see it again. That's their job. To do the dirty work, to do the cover-ups, to do the cover-up. The guy that got rubbed out, or maybe rub him out itself. They're the secret police. Yeah, I bet you they disappear people. I
don't know, people. Matt. Maybe you want to go to Trump's thing, and we can jump back to Israel.
Okay, yeah,
we're on the same.
Okay,
we're talking about policing, and I think there's no better guest here to kind of give us insight to what's going on, to what Donald Trump said the other day. I don't know about you. I told Matt, I said, this is the worst thing that Donald Trump has said. This is the worst implication he's ever made, and it's all about using the military against its own citizens. And I can't understand you seeing people on the populist right or conservatives justifying this and saying it's okay.
Okay, let's hear it from the guy himself. Here we go.
People other than politicians that look bad, they think, the Democrats run most of the cities that are in bad shape. We have many cities in great shape too, by the way. I want you to know that. But it seems that the ones that are run by the radical left Democrats, what they've done to San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, they're very unsafe places, and we're going to straighten them out. It'll be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war, too. It's a war from within. Controlling the physical territory of our border is essential to national security. We can't let these people in. We had no people enter in the last 4 months. Zero. Even I can't believe that. We had millions coming in, pouring in. 25 million all told, and of those 25 million, many of them should never be in our country. They would take their worst people and their people from prisons and jail, and they'd put them in a caravan and they'd walk up. CNN was interviewing one person. Oh, why are you coming? I want freedom. Good. Were you in jail? Yes. For what? Murder. I said, you had to see this anchor, a young woman. She's like, I couldn't believe. She'll probably lose her job, but because the left doesn't want to hear that. But we're running it based on common sense and based on love of our country. But I want to salute every service member who has helped us carry out this critical mission. It's really a very important mission. And I told Pete, we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military. Because we're going into Chicago very soon. That's a big city with an incompetent governor, stupid governor, stupid. They threw him out of his family business. He was so stupid. I know the family. He becomes governor. He's got money. Not money that he made, but he ran for governor, he won, and now he criticizes us all the time. And last week they had 11 people.
Is he practicing his speech before he goes out? Because I think that it feels like everyone in the room is asleep, because that was the lowest energy I've ever heard from him. That's just my original take. But
And by the way, I brought that clip because I didn't want to be people say, well, you're pulling it out of context, you know. So we brought the whole 2 minutes. But for him to say we should use some of these streets as a training ground, you know, and using the National Guard to sick upon your own citizens, I don't recall anything that bad being done by the last administration. Like, you know, once again, obviously, I think they're both the same. One hands off to the other. You know, this is one group, the donors working throughout to make it look like a two-party paradigm when it's a two-party illusion. But that is, to me, and I'm just interested to how you feel about that, Garland. That to me is some of the scariest things I've heard in a long time.
Well, it's kind of like me. I fixed the car up so it'll run and give you the keys so you can drive it. That's the way I look at the last going between the Democrats and the Republicans. Let's not forget, Joe Biden took all of this terrorism stuff, right? And he's like decided to bring the whole war on terror home, and it was domestic terrorism. And all he would talk about is MAGA. They're challenging our democracy. He created this environment where he was saying that people, it was like a real us versus them. The MAGA is people, they're domestic terrorists. And he was, you know, they were advocating for these domestic terrorism laws. So he was, to me, Biden was creating an environment where at some point, someone who was president, be they Trump or whoever, could grab the baton and continue to run in this same direction. The divide and conquer strategy was still going. Let's not forget the whole COVID, and I'm sure you guys covered it. I covered it too. There was this, what was it? A polling where like all of these, a huge number of Democrats were like, oh, the unvaccinated should be, you know, locked away. Their children should be taken, you know.
Noam Chomsky told us that we need to put them in concentration camps. Yes.
They should starve. They shouldn't be allowed to go in emergency rooms. Just let them die. You know, all of these things. So there has been an environment that has been created for some period of time by president after president. You know, we look at the Obama, the kind of actual actions that he took, that, you know, the Smith, whatever it is, Smith-Munson Acts. Mm-hmm. I forgot the name of it. I think that's it, where that allowed the CIA to spy on people at home. So what we've seen is a degradation of our constitutional rights to a point where, to me, and a lot of us have been YouTube pasta, we've all been talking about the inevitability of, if you continue to degrade our rights, if you continue to degrade our constitutional liberties and freedoms, that is inevitable that that this is the direction we were going. So do I see this as terrible? Yes. Do I see it as, you know, fascism and all that kind of stuff? Yes. But I don't see it as something independent of all of the factors that created that. We've been hurtling towards this for some time, and sooner or later we were going to get here.
Yeah. I see that point, and I would say that a lot of things changed after 9/11. That's when we opened up the door to the Patriot Act, spying out the security state, and like you said, it's just been a baton handing off to one president to the next. But to me, I do think this is a whole nother level of holy shit. You're going to now just openly use the military to sick on the citizens. Like, you know, when he sent some of the, I think it was Fort Bragg in San Diego, there were a bunch of Trumpers out there protesting against Donald Trump using the military against citizens. You know what I'm saying? So I do agree with the fact that it has been one administration handing off the baton to the next. But this one, that really did scare the shit out of me when he says we should use it as a training ground. I'm like, wow. And it's scary to me because his voters, his supporters are supporting it. Sorry, Matt.
No, I was just say this has been going on this entire year since he got in. I mean, since he implemented the ICE raids when they first started happening. We were here in LA. We covered that. We were there on day one. I mean, he brought them right in, and it was total chaos here. And then you saw the tweets going out and the reaction of, oh, look at those Angelinos. They're all insane. They're all Antifa. It's George Floyd all over again. And they were talking about Portland. They were talking about Chicago. They were talking about DC. So these are the places he had lined up. So when he uses words like testing ground, Craig, I've been hearing him say this. This isn't the first time he's been talking like this and using all these different cities as a mechanism to justify, we need to bring in this action because of the way people are behaving. And then when we look closer, we saw the provocateurs in place. We saw that the system was designed to create the chaos. The ICE agents here were designed to create the chaos in order to justify bringing in the military. So he's right on point. If anything, I feel like he kind of did that was a lackluster kind of a presentation there. But I'm saying he's been talking like this the whole time, and we are the training ground. This is where
to provide some context. That was in Quantico in front of a bunch of military brass personnel, generals, lieutenants. I guess that's why, once again, the audience he was talking to, it's like it's almost like as if he was giving him a direct order. I believe it was Mark Milley, and I'm not a big Mark Milley fan. Put out something else, put a response that the military, police, everybody, their duty is to uphold the Constitution, not a president, not an emperor, not a king, none of that stuff. So I think that was also important too as well. I guess that's why I was a little bit kind of like, holy cow about this, because it was in front of a bunch of military brass.
Yeah. Well, I think that the training to me is not for overseas. See, you start off and you say to your okay, MAGA people, we got to go after these lefties in the lefties cities and immigrants or whatever, because they'll be like, yeah, let's go after those lefties and all that kind of stuff like that. Yes, hooray. But as this Zionist thing starts to unravel, and let's say people take to the streets, because that's who the training is for, as we get economic crashes, which seem inevitable here and maybe not all that far away, and people like, hey, wait a minute, what happened to my life savings? What happened to this? Why do we have hyperinflation? And people start coming to the streets. Guess what? They've been training for that. They've been practicing for what to do when the masses say, what the hell's going on? We've been screwed. And the masses start coming to the street. Oh, we trained for that. We worked it. So now that MAGA and everybody comes to the street, they're all set and they're ready for what appears to be like the inevitable clash of the working class or whoever else who says, oh my God, we've been screwed. Things are falling apart. Come to the street and they're ready to deal with it. So I don't think that it is training for going overseas. I think it's training for how do you deal with a society that's starting to come unglued because people are been screwed, because you have a situation that makes 2008 look like, the roaring 20s, for God's sake. And they're like, what happened to everything's gone bad. My retirement's gone. The barn market crashed. My savings now is worth pennies. And they start acting up. You've got your troops all ready to put down these insurrections, as they'll call them. But they'll just be people exercising their constitutional rights.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to transition back. It is October 7th. So we're going to talk about this 2 years of genocide here. And I'm going to transition back here in a second here. Guys, we're on with Garland Nixon. We got co-host Craig Pasa. If you guys just joining us, hit the like, share it out. We're here for the rest of the afternoon and into the evening, guys, because that's how we like to do it here on Tuesdays and Thursdays on the Homeless Left. Craig, we had a couple shout outs from your boy Applejack. I got to put this on here because we got some super chats. Here we go. Applejack. Shout out to my brother Pasta, one of the best of the best. We have an independent media. Please keep on keeping on, fam. Check out the Truth Wire. Thank you for that, Applejack.
Thank you, Apple.
He followed up. This is for you too, Pasta. Turning point confirmed. The attacks are real. Thank you very much. And very much thank you, Applejack, for that one. He wanted you to know that because it's important. It's important. We understand that. So, anyways,
all I'm saying is when it's screenshot, it can be cherry picked to push a certain agenda, right? Just like the Twitter files, right? It was like they didn't show us everything; they showed us what they wanted us to see.
Yeah. Well, we stay optimistically skeptical, or what? What is the duality? We say. Cautiously optimistic. That's the one. I like that one. I like the cautiously. And with that, anybody who's still on board with that, the military coming in is, bear with me, guys. This is the transition back to the Israel thing. So if you're still on board that Trump's got a plan domestically, and this is the right move militarily, that he needs to stick it to the liberal cities. Listen to this argument by Caroline Levitt, and then we want to see how this makes any sense when we got something a little more important going on overseas. But here's her little argument. And she's feisty when she tells us this.
In day 3 of the Democrat-led government shutdown, the Democrats continue to recklessly hold the American people hostage over their demands to give illegal aliens free health care.
So the lockdown of the government connected with all we got to police the streets. The Democrats are insane. They're trying to hook up. Can you believe they're trying to hook up illegals with healthcare? Well, just so you MAGAs know, Americans should know this. There are around 800,000, 900,000 Jewish settlers in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, and none of them work. They live off government funding, free housing, free healthcare, free everything, and your tax dollars pay for it. But I guess that's fine, right? Because we have to support our greatest ally in the Middle East with the most moral army in the world. So there you go for a contradiction on what we're upset about here when we should be more upset about what we're doing over there.
Quick comment on that. It's interesting. When Biden and his team came in and the Democrats had the House and the Senate and the White House, and they wouldn't do anything they said they were going to do. And they just said, oh, it's the Republicans. And well, that didn't work. Then it was Sinema and Manchin, and that didn't go so far. Then it became the Senate, parliamentarian. The Republicans are stopping us. So we get whatever party gets in. And they don't do anything for the people. They don't do anything they said they were going to do. Things go to hell, and they blame the other party, even though they have the White House, the Senate, and the House. Now the Republicans have the White House, the Senate, and the House, and they're talking about the Democratic-led, she said, the Democratic-led shutdown. Well, wait a minute. I'll say the same thing I said to Biden. You got the House, you got the Senate, you got the White House, you got the Supreme Court. And it's a Democrat-led. None of these parties will ever it's always the other party. They're always playing this game. The other guy did it. The other guy won't let me do it. The Senate parliamentarian. It's sickening. They are identical. They are twisted, sick, carnival mirror images of each other.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'd like to also state that Carolyn Leavitt didn't want to bring up the fact that they've floated bills from the conservative side to use U.S. taxpayer dollars to actually provide healthcare benefits to IDF soldiers and stuff. I know that the language is kind of wonky, and they're like, no, that's not going directly to the IDF soldiers, but they added more money into the military aid to swing on over to benefits for IDF soldiers. I mean, it's like it's known, but that's okay too as well. And helping human beings that are living in our society. By the way, I'd also like to point out, and I don't like to, quote or parrot Gavin Newsom because he's such a phony fugazi asshole anyways. But, when he sits there and he looks at Sean Hannity, like you always complain about, Los Angeles and the illegal immigrants, and you want to talk about sending ICE in. Meanwhile, the GDP is like the fourth highest in the globe, right? And a lot of the federal programs from red states are subsidized from a bunch of illegal immigrants that you yell about in Los Angeles. So shut the hell up because they're footing the bill.
Well, certainly if Trump attacks Venezuela, that won't have any effect on illegal immigration. That won't cause millions of people from the destabilized regions in Central and South America destabilized. That won't cause millions of refugees who, under international law, fleeing a war zone, will legally be eligible for refugee status.
Yeah.
And I want to attack them. We got to stop the illegal immigration. What are you going to do? We're going to create an environment where millions of people, when you start that war, people are going to say, I'm fleeing a war and a war zone. And now by law, they are legally eligible for refugee status.
And you can use that argument with not Nicaragua, but you can use that argument with Honduras, El Salvador, all these countries that have U.S. military bases in there where they're choosing their government and funding murder death squads, to cause havoc and whatnot. So anybody who's coming here, technically by law, has a right to come here by international law. Garland, I want to ask you the question really quickly before Matt takes it to the next point, because I think it's important, because the argument I get from a lot of people on the populist right, when it comes, they're justifying Donald Trump sending in ICE, obviously because of the immigrant. Why is it important for police to identify themselves? Any type of law enforcement, why would it be important for ICE to identify themselves as officers instead of masking themselves off and hiding their identity?
Well, because people have a right to file complaints. For instance, a police department, you have a right. There are rules and regulations that must be followed. There are laws that they must be followed, and you have a right to file a legal or administrative complaint. I would look into internal. I would say that something should be done, and that's this. someone should simply look into ICE internal rules and regulations, their administrative regulations, because I will guarantee you that somewhere in their administrative rules, there is a method, there is a way that people can file a complaint against an ICE agent if they feel that this ICE agent is done to them. You know, I work for a law enforcement agency, and we had, you know, if you file a complaint, you do this, at which point we have to give the officer this paper, this blah, blah, blah. And we had certain procedures and policies, right? So here's the issue. And somebody should actually try this in court to argue why they have to identify themselves. If ICE has a method through which citizens who feel that they've been illegally treated or, you know, immorally, unethically treated by an ICE agent, right? If they have some method where somebody can file a complaint, where you can file, I'm a woman and an ICE agent felt my breast and I can file a complaint, right? But you can't do it if you don't know who the hell they are.
Yeah.
So you can argue they have to identify themselves, because other than if they're not identified, how does a citizen file a complaint against an ICE agent for violating either the law or their own internal policies and procedures? So you don't have policies and procedures if I don't know, if there's just a bunch of guys with a black mask and I'm a woman and one of those ICE agents squeezed my breast, right? Can't do that. I can file a complaint against them, right? Sexual harassment, whatever you want to call it. And I say, I want to file a complaint. I don't see a name tag. I can't see his face. All I know is there was 12 guys there and one of them felt my breast. And we know that's illegal. Now I file a complaint. What is ICE going to say? Yeah, well, we think somebody might have did it. And in fact, we've got it on videotape, but we can't figure out who it is because they're all that look the same. So I would make an argument that you can't file a complaint. In fact, a woman could come along and file a complaint against ICE. A woman could come along who was arrested by ICE and say, one of these ICE agents felt my breast, squeezed my butt, did something untoward, unsexually, but I don't know who it is because they're not, you know, they didn't tell me who they are and I didn't see any name tags. Therefore, I'm going to sue ICE. I think that would be a good lawsuit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is what we're talking about here is when you allow these ICE agents to behave this way, it's not just you're giving people less of an ability to have their rights, have a documented paper trail of right and wrong. They're on top of that, you're setting a precedent for people to be standoffish when they see people coming at them, giving them orders. How do I know you're not a thug that's not related to the ICE? How do I know who you are at all? Why should I even listen to you? And you're going to cause more chaos. But again, I think this goes back to the reason this is the way it is because ICE is being put out in these cities as a form to create chaos to then justify the military intervention. That's the whole point, is to create chaos. So of course, not showing your face is going to make the case for that.
Well, the argument
let me
immigrants and they don't have the right to the same rights as an American citizen has, but you know, it says clearly in the Constitution that all persons are entitled to due process. So all
yeah,
they should. It's illegal is the first part of that answer. But go ahead, Garland. I'm sorry.
Let me add this. Okay, some car comes up behind you and starts coming after you, and you run from the car, and they charge you with, you know, fleeing and eluding, right? And you say, well, that car was an unmarked car.
Yep.
It was just a plain old, you know, I don't know, with Chevy Caprice, whatever the hell they drive now. Who knows? You know, a Ford Bronco or something, a Ford Bronco. And now you could go to court and you could show multiple instances where people have faked being law enforcement officers and pulled women over and raped them, pulled people over and robbed them. So you go to court and you show, look, people, this has happened, Your Honor. I didn't know it was a marked car. I would have pulled over, but I didn't pull over. Okay, same way. 3 guys jump out and grab you and they got on all black and you shoot them. Not that. Oh my God, you killed 3 ICE agents. Those are ICE agents. 3 guys jumped out at night and tried to take me out. And I just protected myself. It's terrible. I feel terrible for their families. But how the hell did I know they were ICE agents? They looked like 3 guys in black. I thought they were trying to kill me. For the safety of the ICE agents, in my opinion. They should be, somebody could just fear for their life and pull out a knife and stab one, try to kill them, try to do anything to protect them. If I come upon, let's say I'm a person who just happens to be armed walking up the street, and I see 3 thugs in black suits beating up, beating some woman up. Who's to say I might not pull out a gun and shoot those 3? Hey, leave that woman alone. Pow! And I shoot them. And then I find out they're ICE agents. Now I go to court. They charge me with, why did you shoot those 3? Your Honor, I didn't know they were ICE agents. I saw 3 men in black beating up a woman at night, and I felt I had to defend her. I thought they were going to kill her. Who's going to convict that guy? There's no criminal intent. You would have to show that he truly knew and believed that they were ICE agents. Yeah. He was simply coming to the aid of a woman. So for the safety of the ICE agents, for the ability of people to be able to file complaints if these guys violate their rules, they got to know who the hell it is.
They might just be confused about what safety first means, because we're on the impression safety first means wearing your mask, right? So, which we all forgot to do today. By the way, we forgot to put our masks on, and I'm a little scared of the screen.
We should have had it on for the show.
Yeah, we should have really had it on today, but maybe that's why they're just scared of. They thought the mask was to protect their safety, but no, we're talking about safety first, and we got to be about safety first here.
Would it help if I go in the other room and get a condom? I could put on a condom or wear a condom just for safety. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't have a mask, but that's the best I could do.
Face diaper. I got in trouble for using that term. Face diaper.
So
I think they should have made those masks out of latex, in my opinion, and just let them put the latex around their eyes from here to there. Eliminated a lot of problems.
Mine covered like all this here. I was wearing a Magnum.
Oh, there we go.
I remember a meme of Batman getting arrested because he has the mouth open.
Oh yeah. My
funny.
favorite was that, have you seen the video of this band, and they're playing saxophones or something? It's like a high school band or college band, and they all have their masks on, but they've cut holes open to stick their instruments. I'm like,
well, COVID doesn't attack musicians when they're in the middle of playing, just like they don't attack people eating. We know that was worked out in advance. That was a deal we made with COVID, that during dinner time, playing music, you're fine. You're good.
Yeah. If you went down to a certain level. I still love the meme of the support group of the mask going away, and the dude was all upset because it used to make him special, and feel better than everybody else, the fact that he would wear the mask. So he was in this kind of support group talking to them about, it sucks that it's going away because it really made me feel special and above everybody else, Yeah.
I just said to him, dude, nobody's telling you can't wear your mask. They have an outlawed mask. You can wear a mask 24 hours a day if you want to. It's just that in fact, you'll be even more special. Yeah. You'll be the only guy. You'll be the mask guy. I suggest you do that and just let the rest of us go on with our lives. See, that's the thing about it that I've always said. Nobody told these people they couldn't wear masks. Wear 2 or 3 of them. Remember, they were up to 3 masks at one. Wonderful. Keep going with masks until no air can get through. Then you'll be sure you won't get COVID for all eternity.
I was in LA last week, and a judge at a family court case was wearing a mask. I was like, you got to be. I'm like, we're not going to get results out of this one.
No, that's not a good sign.
That's not a good sign. And to be honest with you, it's just so funny to me because a lot of these judges who in LA, which is terrible, the system is so broken there. They won't issue. Some of them won't issue mental health examinations because they feel it's violating HIPAA laws, but those same judges will write dissertations on why it's important for COVID vaccines to be tracked. That's okay. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's circle back to October 7th. This is the day we will never forget. You know what? I want to put this Caitlin Johnstone up here because this is important, guys. We got to remember that never forget October 7th, 2023, that fateful day when Israelis were brutally massacred by Israeli tanks and Israeli helicopters and Israeli drones and Israeli soldiers and Israeli bullets, and also hit by Hamas a bit. So we will never forget. Obviously, we know that information is out because they've reported on it in Haaretz. They've reported on it in Jerusalem Post. We know that the Hannibal directive was given on October 7th. We also know a stand down order was given on October 7th, but our mainstream still hasn't caught up. Maybe they're just not, maybe they're just being sloppy. That's the word of the day today, sloppy. But moving into this mark of a 2-year moment, one would hope that at some point we can figure out a way that to get Netanyahu in a corner where he's going to have to take this deal. I want both your guys' thoughts on this, but if you guys know the order of things that happened, Netanyahu came, after 70 countries walked out at the UN, he flew to DC, sat down with Trump, worked out a deal. The deal was Hamas needs to sign this right now. If they sign the deal, then yes, we will then exchange a certain amount of hostages. They were going to release all of them. That was the idea. Israel was going to, one of the bullet points was that Israel was going to release 1,700 since October 7th that they were keeping as hostage. Nobody before that, of course, they all have to stay in prison. But the idea of, does Israel get to stay in the Gaza Strip, or is it an outside entity coming in? Hamas went and signed this thing. That was big news. I would not have bet on that. I would not have bet that Hamas was going to go for this deal because it was setting them up. However, looking at it now, it looks like Netanyahu might be putting it in a corner because Trump tweeted this out based on the statement just issued by Hamas. I believe that they are ready for a lasting peace. Israel must immediately stop the bombing of Gaza so that we can get the hostages out safely and quickly. Right now, it's far too dangerous to do that. We are already in discussions on details to be worked out. This is not about Gaza alone. This is about long-sought peace in the Middle East. But as we know, Netanyahu goes and then rejects this peace plan almost just hours after the announcement. And this is making everybody squirm right now. I'm not sure what I want you guys to take on this, but just so the audience knows, this is what's going on in Israel right now. These are the people in the street, and the chant is, it's now or never. They are fed up. This is what they're saying. This is it. This is happening right now. And this is based on the fact that all the piece, as far as they're concerned, every piece is in place to end this thing. Obviously, we know there's more going on behind the scenes when we talk about the Greater Israel Project, but are we at the place now, Garland, are we at the place now where Netanyahu, whether he likes it or not, is he now in some sort of a corner where there is a breaking point coming, or is he able to continue to maneuver on beyond this?
Well, a couple of things. I think number one, the Hamas played strategically speaking, they played a really smart hand. You know what I mean? Oftentimes, it's the unorthodox fighter. If you remember boxing, Michael Spinks, Michael Spinks he beat the heck out of everybody. He did everything wrong. His footwork was wrong. He swung with the wrong hand. He did everything that appeared to be wrong, except he won championship after championship, which is why nobody knew what the hell he was going to do. It was unorthodox, right? And I think what Hamas did recently, when everybody's like, oh, they're just going to reject that for obvious reasons, they didn't. They did something that was unorthodox. And I would even argue this, that the plan was that, I think they sniffed out the plan. That when somebody says a plan, it's like, here's what I'm going to do. We'll write up this plan that they'll never take, and then we'll give it to them, and then they'll reject it. And then we can just come out and do all kind of devious and evil and diabolical things, right? Okay. But that means that the other side's got to play along. Okay, you got this thing? You sure they won't take it? No. All right, let's give it to them. Boom, there you go. Now, when they give it back to us and they've rejected it, then we'll bomb and we'll massacre and we'll do all kinds of things. And they're like, okay, we'll sign it. You're like, oh, crap. We didn't see that coming. And I think that's the game Hamas played, knowing that you can't trust the U.S., knowing that you can't trust Israel, knowing that they ain't going to keep their word. I think they sniffed them out and they figured, they're only giving us because they know we ain't going to sign it. Oh, yeah, well, I'll fix them. We'll sign it. And then they don't have a plan for that. They didn't know what to do when Hamas said, okay, we'll take it. They gave them an offer they couldn't possibly take, and they took it because they knew they were never really going to have to live up to this plan. You know what I mean? If Hamas looked at it and said, yeah, if we sign this, the Zionists and the Americans will keep their word and we'll be in a... No, they knew the Zionists and the Americans would never keep their word. So they knew they were never really going to have to do anything but sign the plan and watch the other side squirm. And now the Israelis got people in the street. Oh, we got to do something to release the hostages. You got Trump and Netanyahu. Oh, darn, what do we do? We thought they were going to reject it. They put them in a difficult position strategically. It was brilliant. It gave them the upper hand because they controlled the narrative on that. And on top of that, they have now taken, which they already had, but even more so, they've taken the moral high road because their position is, well, we accepted a plan for peace. You gave us a plan for peace, one that nobody in the world thought we'd take. But you know what? We're good, peaceful kind of guys. We decided to go ahead and take this plan. And now what do? Now you got to reject the plan that you came up with, that they accepted, that the whole world was shocked that they accepted. So people say, wow, they took the plan. And now you got to go back on your own plan and you look bad. So it's interesting, the chess game that was played here.
Yeah.
I think the majority of people out there are not protesting for peace. I think the majority of those people out there, they want the hostages more than anything. They want the room back.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I don't think you'll ever see Israel stop until it's completely gentrified. It's a colonization project. But I mean, maybe once again, we don't know the forces. And like we've been talking about this, who's zooming who's talking about who's in charge, whatnot. You know, it obviously looks like on the surface where Donald Trump was being like, look, this is causing me so many problems right now. You need to stop for now, right? Well, you already got the North. You can move in. You can start building settlements in the North, put the way down. But right now, the bombing indiscriminately needs to be stopped. You can continue to starve out the Gazans if you want. We've already gentrified half the area. You know what I'm saying? But you need to stop right now. We can't continue to do this because the constant feed, you know, and you have people out there. I don't know what you thought about the Van Jones statement the other day, guys, on Bill Maher. You know what I'm saying? Where he was blaming Iran for like a plot or a plan to turn Americans against each other. They're looking up their phone and they're seeing dead babies in Israel every day, you know, in Gaza every day, and that's really causing a problem. And they're using that to divide us. Well, no, Mr. Van Jones, it's that people are done seeing this every single day. You know what I'm saying? It's just too much. And, you know, there's only so much you can thrust upon people. I think Donald Trump sees, you know, if he is an independent character, whatever the situation is, he sees like a lot of big portion of the right reject of what's going on, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys said, and I've said this to you too, Matt, as well earlier. Isn't it cute to see people on the populist right talk about things that were done years and years ago that the independent anti-imperialist leftists like ourselves were talking about years ago? Flotilla stuff. Nobody's mentioning Cynthia McKinney when she did this years ago and spent days in an IDF prison before all this happened went now. So I think it's kind of cute to see a lot of these conservatives, people like Owen Schroyer, people like, you know, Dan Blazarian and all these other guys talk about the issues with Zionism now today that we've been talking about years ago. But at the end of the day, they're never going to stop until they have all that land. It might not be today, it might not be right now. You know, I think that he was trying to seize on this opportunity to say, let's just go ahead and finish this deal. And by the way, a lot of those people in the streets that you see over there, a lot of them think that Netanyahu hasn't been strong-handed enough. Naftali Bennett, right? The previous leader of Israel, right? Before it was Netanyahu, Naftali Bennett, and back to Netanyahu. You know, he was even more strong-handed, and you know, like, this is the enemy. So I don't know what to think about this other than the fact that there's never a ceasefire. And Donald Trump can use words like we need permanent peace. No, it's just a pause. So they're never going to stop until they colonize and get all that land and drive all the Gazans and all the Palestinians off that land. It's never going to end. And at the end of the day, it's really cute again, as well as you're telling them to stop. Meanwhile, your administration, the administration beforehand, provided all the weapons for them to begin with in the first place. It's just so hypocritical and contradictory to say, stop beating that guy over the head with the bat, but that's the bat that you handed them.
So yeah. I wouldn't say it's cute that they're vocal about it. I think it's a good thing that they are, and I give them more credit than people voting for Biden or Obama or Harris or whoever on the left that keep their mouths freaking shut the entire term and have nothing to say about where their vote went to. So I think it's actually not. I think it's a good thing. And when I ask, and Garland, we're talking about, and Craig, I agree with you. The people in the street, they want the hostages back. But the reason why I'm asking this question, because it might be, you know, cautiously optimistic of me to think that there's more people coming around, people in Israel coming around. They want those hostages so bad. And maybe this is the moment they realize that their own leader is the one keeping them from coming home. Just that little point. They don't have to understand all the logistics, all of the geopolitics, all of the years and years we've been looking at. They don't have to understand any of that. But the one thing could be the thing that makes them go, wait a minute. You've been lying to us the whole time. We've been putting these signs up. We've been having these these little, events where we're mourning our lost, friends and families, and you've been playing us the whole time. That's worth something, I think. If that is the case, if the case is that that's the largest gathering we've ever seen in Tel Aviv, and they're saying now it's now or never, are they actually saying it's now or never to Netanyahu? Are they done with him? And that, I would think that's a good thing. Garland,
can I
you
say
first.
something? Can I cut in front of Garland real quick? Garland,
Yeah.
let me just say this.
Oh,
Here's the
go
biggest
ahead,
difference. And the reason why I say it's cute is because most of those people, and a lot of the conservatives too as well, the actual voter, if you ask them, okay, with everything you know now, and now you're coming aboard with the whole Zionist movement, whether it was Candace Owens or Dan Bilzerian, whoever, what your favorite podcaster who said this, would you go back in time and not vote for Trump? They're like, oh, no, I didn't say that. They would still kind of give you the argument that he is the lesser of two evils and still support him. They're not homeless like us. We got off the train. We said enough is enough. We're never going to support this party anymore. We're not going to support the Obamas, the Bidens. We're walking. That's the difference between us and them. They're not walking. They're still saying that Donald Trump is the lesser of two evils because he's anti-woke.
But we're also a community, and we're open for them to join us. And if we don't do that, if we just yell at them about it, then we're not doing our part in our space to say, welcome, when you're ready, we are here. That's the space we're in. But Garland, go ahead. Your thoughts.
Well, a couple of things. Better late than never, as they say. So if somebody's coming around now and they're like, when it comes to that Zionist thing, I guess I was wrong. Good. I think, one of the things we're talking about is we realize that there is no part of this thing, the Democrat-Republican joke. There's no element in that is going to be like the good guys or try to fix it or save it. They're just, Obama, to me, Obama and Trump are the same guy. Obama was the guy that did it to the lefties. Trump was the guy that did it to the righties, to come in and say, I'm different. I'm going to do things totally different. Then when he gets in office, it was all a fraud, right? So I think it's good that at least they're out of the starting blocks. And now that they're like starting to ask some questions, hey, perhaps I've been lied to about things that I believe. At least maybe they can go from there, and maybe they'll start questioning some other things. So I think that's a good thing. It's a start. You got to start somewhere. So that's good. No, are they all the way? No. Certainly we know the polls tell us that most Israelis overwhelmingly are in favor of, of the most horrible genocidal crap that you've ever seen in your life. That, we've seen them in the streets before because, of some policy about the legal situation, or now about the so-called hostages. I refer to them as administrative detainees, and the reason I do is because Israel has laws called administrative detention laws, which means basically they can grab anybody off the street anywhere at any time. They can charge them with nothing. They can hold them for life as long as they choose, and never let them go, or let them go without charges, without any form of due process, right? And they refer to them as administrative detainees. What's the difference between a Palestinian administrative detainee and an Israeli administrative detainee? So I don't refer to them as hostages. I refer to them by the same thing that the Israelis refer to the people that they grab without charges, and that is as administrative detainees. In fact, I think it would have been better if from the very beginning, when Hamas grabbed them and they said, what do you have? They said, they're administrative detainees. Israel has some administrative detainees, and we do too. So, we'll trade administrative detainees for administrative detainees. But I'm glad to see they've made some noise. What's interesting, I think, is good. Where the waking up is happening is like in Italy, where people are like, we're going to do a general strike. We're going to shut down the ports. We're going to shut down the roads. What has to happen is the people in these imperialist countries have to say, we will not comply. We will not allow our country to operate in a normal manner if you're going to be involved in this kind of activity. So what I'm glad of, I see it in Italy, that some people in some countries are starting to wake up enough to say there's more of us than there are of them, and we will disrupt this country, and we will say you can't rule over this country if you're going to do that kind of stuff, because you can only rule over us if we allow it. And if we say no, we're not going to allow it, you can say go home. No. Yeah. Get off the streets. No. We're not. Go to work. No. We will do nothing. You can call yourself the president. You can call yourself the Congress. It doesn't matter. We will not do a damn thing you tell us to do until you start doing some things that we tell you to do. And right now that ain't happening. And I think that's where America needs to be, where the American people say, we're not going to do what you ask us to do unless you do what we ask you to do. So-called members of Congress and politicians, right now that ain't happening. You can't expect us to, but we're not going to do it anyway. And I think that's the direction we're going. And that's the the ground zero for that is like Italy right now. I think it's beautiful what's happening there.
The dock workers. Yeah, definitely. And there's more of us than them as they don't want us to figure out. It's just simple math, and we have more in common with each other than we don't. And as soon as we figure that out, that's what they don't want. That's what they're afraid of, us figuring that out. And the propaganda they keep having to spew on us is because they know they need our consent to do the things they do to us. So without our consent, they can't get away with it. And so I love that message there. Garland. Craig, do you have anything else to add here? And final thoughts?
No, I just thought it was great the way they are saying we're going to shut it down. Let's just shut this shit down. I love it. You know what I'm saying? But, I don't see that happening in the United States because, once again, I think the United States is divided. We're the most propagandized people. Like I said, I think at the end of the day, even though a lot of people might not be happy with what's going on, and, this whole attitude of like, we just got to walk away from it, right? Like, we don't need to be involved with that anymore. Well, that's too late. You're the one who pushed all these situations, right? You've been propping up Israel for God knows how long. You can't walk away from just Ukraine and say, let's just walk away from it. You started that war. I think people have to look at the empire and what they're doing and why we're at the point we are at to really fix things moving forward. It starts from within. And if we don't fix that first, it doesn't make a difference what else we try to fix in the future, because we have to realize that it's all about empire. Empire is the problem. We need to fix empire. And once we do that, then we can start moving on our way. But the recognition is not there. It's still, it's so the party of individual responsibility doesn't want to be responsible for their foreign policy, their country's foreign policy whatsoever.
Garland, anything else you want to leave us with? Let people know where they can find you and all that.
Sure, everybody. You can find me on my YouTube page. I also have a Substack. I just wrote an article a lot of people like about Charlie Kirk and my thoughts on his assassination. So follow me on my YouTube channel. Follow me on Substack.
Awesome. Thank you, Garland Nixon. As always, great conversation. Love the insight and thoughtful commentary. Looking forward to our next discussion. Thanks so much.